Okay, welcome everyone to the Flux Dev Meeting.
We released Flux 2.9 yesterday. Um, really big release with lots of features. Um, Let me see. Let me pull up something here. We've been talking about this for a while, but just to give a quick update because there's a bug I need to look into from the release. Uh, so so in the release we have first of all the plugin system in the CLI, right? So we had an RFC for that, and we finally shipped it as a feature in the Flux CLI now. We have two official plugins maintained by the Flux project, which are Flux Mirror and Flux Schema. Flux Mirror is a plugin for uh, mirroring OCI artifacts between registries, like container images, Flux OCI artifacts, Helm OCI charts, and this tool also allows mirroring, most importantly, mirroring Helm HTTP repositories into OCI Helm charts so that we can move away from the Helm repository and Helm chart CRDs in source controller. Uh, those are now in maintenance mode. We're not shipping new features there. Only critical bug fixes and CDEs. And the path forward for Flux users is to, one, if they have their own charts being published somewhere, stop publishing it to a Helm repo, Helm HTTP repo, and start publishing to a Helm OCI repo. But if you're not in control of the chart and it's an open source chart, for example, that is only published in an HTTP Helm repository, then Flux Mirror can mirror from there to an OCI registry you control, so you can deploy that chart from Flux using the OCI repository CRD, which is our best CRD for sources. Uh, so yeah, that's Flux Mirror plugin. There's also Flux Schema, which is a tool that allows you to validate your Kubernetes YAMLs offline without access to a cluster. Uh, so you can, literally validate your YAMLs against their schema. And this tool is very good for that. It allows you to point to various catalogs of CRDs. The repo, the Flux Schema repo also vendors the most important CRDs from Flux perspective, which is Flux, Kubernetes. We also have OpenShift and also Gateway API. And we also have the declarative configuration of Flux Mirror and Flux Schema. They are not CRDs, but they follow the Kubernetes KRM YAML style. And we publish their schema as well. And Flux Schema can validate its own configuration schema and Flux Mirror schema. So that's what Flux Schema is for. Uh, Offline validation is great because you know that story about push and pray, right? You push a YAML with a typo, you're sometimes you lock yourself out. You need to solve it without GitOps. So it's really important to validate your YAMLs in CI. And this tool is awesome for that because it does it offline. Your CI does not need access to the cluster. So this is great. Um, yeah, those are the main things from the release, the plugin system. Of course, we have also a plugin for so we have three plugins in the catalog so far. The two I was talking about are officially maintained in the Flux project. And there's also a plugin for Flux operators. Flux operator also has a CLI and it can be used as a plugin in the Flux CLI as well. So instead of running Flux dash operator, you can use it Flux space operator, just like the other two, of course. Um, so yeah, Flux operator has is a plugin as well in the CLI. And yeah, this is the CLI, the CLI plugin system is the main thing of the release, but also we have very important features, for example, like the one shipped by DeepD, that is the fine-grained drift control, right? Like, so you can ignore fields in your customizations in the when Flux is going to reconcile. That's very good, for example, for HPA and VPA, right? So now you can have in your manifest an initial value for those fields. So Flux, when creating those resources, it will set those values in the YAML. But as soon as another controller takes over those fields, Flux will stop touching those fields. Um,
Without that, the default value for replicas is one, right?
yes, correct. That's
Yeah,
a
which
very
is
good
bad.
observation. Like many people want to have a default value of replicas to 2 because it's HA, right? Um, and uh, with this feature, you can do that. Before, you would be forced to not specify the replicas field at all, which defaults to 1, which is not HA. So yeah, this is a very important feature as well for customized controller. We also improved also in customized controller support for secrets encryption with SOPs. We have Age now has a post-quantum cipher, and Vault and OpenBow now have support for workload identity from Kubernetes Service Account tokens. So with this, you don't need a Vault token or whatever other static secret to access your Vault or OpenBow instances, which defeats the purpose of having a secret solution, right? So yeah, now you can connect to these secret solutions without a secret that is not managed by them. Uh, so yeah, that's really good. There's also Helm improvements. We have post-render strategies now that allows you to choose between true alternatives. You can send hooks and non-hooks resources to Helm post-renderers together, or you can send only the main resources without hooks, or you can send each one in a separate stream. And that matters for how you're using our post renders, which are customized patches. So customize has opinions on how uh, patches are applied depending on whether the resource is there or not. So that's why sometimes we may choose to make it combined. Sometimes we may choose to make both but in separate streams. Or if you don't care about patching hooks at all, just just use no hooks. This is also a breaking change because that's a breaking change in Helm 4, um, which changed to combined. So Helm 4 by default um, now actually it's the only behavior in the CLI that the only way you can the only thing you can do with the Helm CLI is the combined behavior. Like you have they send both hooks and non-hooks to the post renderers. But the SDK has support for those three alternatives, which we implemented in Flux. So in Flux, you can do what Helm does and two other options. And the default now matches Helm, right? Because as we said, Flux will always match Helm's defaults when Helm does that in a major upgrade, which is what happened. Like from 3 to 4, they have the right to do breaking changes, and we have the right to do the same changes. But we also allow Flux users to switch back to the Helm pre-default through a feature gate. We also implemented that, so we are the best project. Also, other features in Helm as well, like you can now use literals in values from. Uh, that means not parsing a YAML or a JSON and embedding the entire thing as Helm leaf value instead of parsing. That matches an option in the Helm CLI. Yeah. And also we have SSH-based Git commit signing and verification, like verification source controller, signing in image automation controller. We have workload entity authentication for AWS code commit, and also custom seek store trusted routes, right? If your trust infrastructure is private and self-hosted, it's not public recore or anything like that. You can now self-host this infrastructure and use it in Flux. And also, Artifact Generator got a feature for path pattern discovery. So you can do this path pattern. It's like a path with blanks that have, for example, slash apps, and then the app slash app, the app name slash env slash the env name. So imagine this path with four parts, right? The second and the fourth parts are the blanks, are the app name and the environment name. So you have this structure in your artifact, then you like Source Watcher can go through all the paths that match this structure and automatically generate an external artifact for that path for you. Um, and we also plan to have later, not so late though, a feature in Flux Operator in resource set that allows you to detect these artifacts that you split from your monorepo, and you can leverage the resource set input matrix, right? So you can use the these paths, these artifacts, these external artifacts that artifact generator generated as the inputs that are templated out as a matrix with resources in resource set. So basically, this allows you to very easily deploy a bunch of tenants with very short amount of YAML, essentially. um, and last but not least, we have improvements in receiver. Receiver now has support for OIDC authentication. So you can, from wherever you want to trigger the receiver, you can send an OIDC token for authentication. That is, of course, if you care about your receivers protected and not like anybody with access to the endpoint, which sometimes can mean the internet, right? Let's say if you're on github.com, right? Or whatever, like whatever CI system that is not the same network as your cluster, and you may need internet, you may need to expose your receiver to the internet. And so if you do, you should probably care about not letting it get triggered by anybody on the internet. And that's why you should use this OIDC authentication feature. Only the users or actors, right? Machines, systems with an OIDC token that is trusted by the receiver will be able to trigger it. And to make this even easier, we also introduced Flux Trigger Receiver in the Flux CLI, which takes care of all the logic necessary to trigger this receiver, making the call and everything. And that is particularly useful if you're using the other two generic receivers, which are generic and generic HMAC. So those use the receiver's secret to compute the path besides the namespace and name, plus HMAC also signs the payload. So that command can trigger the three receivers now: generic HMAC, and generic OIDC. And I, of course, recommend using generic OIDC everywhere. uh, yeah, I guess that's it. Among other minor improvements that we always have, we always have so many contributions. Uh, oh yeah, Helm, for example, also can do in-place chart updates when the chart name changes. I forgot about that. Like you change the chart name inside chart.yaml, Helm controller would normally uninstall the chart and reinstall. Now you can opt into just doing an in-place upgrade. No downtime if you want to rename your chart. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, there's so many things. So yeah, over and out. Big release. Oh yeah, Flux Operator has got a bunch of cool UI features now. We have a workload dashboard. It has a very powerful logs viewer for the workload. And it also shows the inventory, like the Flux suppliers also show the inventory of objects with their content, not just their references. Like you before this feature we in Flux Operator Web UI, you would only see which objects some Flux supplier applied, like their names and etc. types and names. Now you also see their spec and status. And of course, we mask secrets. Even though you may have RBAC for seeing a secret. Sorry, we have not reached the point where you can actually see the content in the UI. You can only see redacted. You can only see keys.
Thankfully.
Yeah. You cannot see the values of the keys yet. They are all redacted. Uh, but I don't know, right? Like you could want that feature. You have RBAC for it, so we could show some review buttons, right? For each key there's a small review button and you can see only that item one at a time. I guess we'll see if that really lands.
So long as I can still bring the UI up on my streams without that risk.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, if we do that, they will default to concealed. And we might also that could be considered a breaking change, right? So we could make even put config knob and you only your UI will only allow users with RBAC for a secret to see the secret values if you configure the UI as to do that. Yes, so you need to allow it, and RBAC also needs to allow it. Let's see if that happens. That's not a feature, by the way. I'm just talking about something we can do. And so far, we always redact the secret values. I guess now, yeah, that's it. Over and out. Uh, there's more features in Flux Operator in this version as well, but take a look at the change log because I don't remember all of them right now. But the UI ones are the most important ones. And I guess that's it. We leave the meeting here because there are bugs from the release I need to look into. Uh, all right.
Thanks for the updates.
Thanks for hosting the meeting, Kingdom. All right. I'll see you next week.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.